Welcome, my friends, to Learn English Road. Today, I invite you into the magical world of animal fables, short, simple stories where animals speak, act, and feel just like us. But hidden inside these tales are powerful lessons for life. Each story is easy to follow in English, and each one will give you something to think about in your own life. So sit back, relax, and let's begin our journey with the first tale. The Monkey and the Mirror.
Once upon a time, in a lush green jungle, there lived a naughty little monkey. One day, the monkey was playing around, and he found a shiny mirror lying on the ground. He had never seen a mirror before. At first, the monkey was a little scared of the mirror, because he thought it was a still body of water. But then he saw his own reflection, making funny faces at him. And from that day on, the monkey became addicted to that mirror. Every day, he would spend hours in front of that mirror, making funny faces and laughing at himself. He would forget to do anything else. The other monkeys would call out to him, "Hey, you come play with us." But he would just say, "No, I'm busy." And he kept on making faces in front of that mirror. Now, you may ask, what's wrong with that? After all, he was just making faces and having fun, right? Well, yes, but he did that every single day. He never went to look for food. He never played with the other monkeys. All he did was just sit in front of that mirror and admire himself. Then the dry season arrived. All the juicy fruits disappeared from the trees, and the monkey had forgotten to store any food for himself. Now he was very hungry, but there was no food anywhere. The other animals could eat the fruit they had stored up, but the monkey had nothing to eat. He started to feel very sad. As he walked through the jungle, he saw that same mirror lying on the ground. He looked at it and realized that the reflection inside was no longer funny. It was just a sad monkey with an empty stomach. Then he understood that that mirror showed him only who he was now, but it didn't show him who he would become. It did unshow him how his life would be in the future, if he kept on wasting his time. He threw a stone at the mirror and broke it into pieces. From that day on, the monkey started to spend his time wisely. He spent time with his friends. He played with them, ate delicious food, and most importantly, he started to store food for the future. One day, when the juicy mangoes were in season, he asked the other monkeys, "Hey, can I have that big mango tree near our home? We will collect the fallen mangoes and keep them in our treehouse, so we can eat them during the dry season." The other monkeys agreed, and soon that treehouse was filled with delicious dried mangoes. So when the dry season came again, the monkeys were very happy that they had food to eat. And that's the story of the monkey and the mirror. Now, do you know what the moral of the story is? Do share in the comments section.
That was the monkey's lesson. The monkey was too focused on his own reflection. Now, let's move to the wolf, a creature who thought fear was friendship. Let's hear his story.
The wolf who wanted friends. There was a lone wolf who lived in a forest. Now this wolf was big and strong, and he thought that his strength made him powerful. In fact, he thought he was so powerful that all the other animals in the forest should be afraid of him, and they were afraid of him, yes. But he wanted more than just to be feared. He wanted to have friends. One day, winter came to the forest. It was cold and snowy, and the wolf was all alone. He was hungry, but no animal would come near him to share their food. They were all afraid. The wolf was very sad. One day, as he was walking through the forest, he saw a group of rabbits sitting together. They were sharing their food and huddling together for warmth. The wolf was very hungry, and he started thinking, perhaps fear is not power. Perhaps if I am kind to these rabbits, they will share their food with me. So he walked up to them and said in his kindest voice, "Hello, dear rabbits. Would you mind if I joined you? I am very hungry." The rabbits were a little afraid, but they saw that the wolf was sad, and one of the rabbits said, "Of course, you can join us. We have plenty of food to share." And the wolf felt very happy. From that day on, the wolf stopped being reckless and started being kind to all the animals in the forest. The birds would huddle with him to keep him warm, and the rabbits would share their food with him. The wolf was no longer feared, but he was respected by all the animals. Once again, the wolf realized that true strength is not in making others fear you, but in making them trust you. And from that day on, the wolf lived happily ever after with his new friends.
The wolf discovered that true strength comes from trust, not fear. But in another part of the jungle lived an elephant who doubted his own power, until the day he was forced to use it. Let's listen now to the story of the elephant who forgot his size.
Once upon a time in the jungle, there lived a young elephant. Now, this elephant was very gentle and kind-hearted, but he was very shy and insecure. He always thought, "I am too clumsy. I have big ears and a long trunk. If I try to help someone, I will only make things worse." One day, a terrible wildfire broke out in the forest. All the animals were screaming and running in panic. The elephant was frozen with fear. He didn't know what to do. But then he saw the river. Quickly, he took a big gulp of water in his trunk and sprayed it on the fire. The flames were so grateful for the water that they stopped burning for a moment. And our little elephant friend thought, "Well, maybe I can help." So again and again, he went to the river, took a big gulp of water and sprayed it on the fire until the fire was completely out. All the animals were safe because of him. They cheered, "You are the best little elephant. You saved us all. Your size was just what we needed." Our little elephant friend was very happy to hear that. He had never thought of his size as a strength before, but now he knew what they meant. If he hadn't been so big, he wouldn't have been able to carry so much water and help all the animals. He was no longer afraid of his size. In fact, he was proud of it. From that day on, whenever the little elephant felt insecure about his size, he remembered the day he saved the jungle and all the animals. And he realized that what he thought was a weakness was actually his greatest strength.
The elephant learned that true strength is within us. But some lessons come not from strength, but from patience and wisdom. In another corner of the forest lived a turtle who dreamed of being fast, faster than everyone else. Let's hear the tale of the turtle who wanted to run.
Once upon a time in a green meadow lived a turtle. Every day he watched the beautiful deer run gracefully across the field. "Oh, how unfair," the turtle thought. "Why must I always be slow? Why can't I run like the deer?" He began to train. Every morning he would stretch his legs and try to run, but the deer were always faster. So he started skipping meals and tried running again. Still, the deer were too quick for him. Exhausted and frustrated, the turtle gave up. One evening, he was crossing a river when suddenly he saw one of the deer trying to cross as well. But the current was strong and the deer was being swept away. Without a second thought, the turtle dove into the water and swam to the rescue. The deer gasped, "You saved my life. None of us can swim like you." The turtle smiled and said, "I don't need to run like the deer. I already have my own gift." The turtle realized that each of them had their own unique abilities. He didn't have to be like the deer because he was already good at something else. You see, the turtle spent so much time wishing he could be like the deer that he almost forgot about his amazing swimming skills. He got so caught up in comparing himself to others that he didn't realize how special he was. Friends, don't waste your life trying to be someone else. You may be just the way you are. We all have different abilities, and it's what makes us unique and special. The turtle learned this lesson, and from that day on, he was happy being a turtle. Don't waste life wishing to be someone else. Your strengths are enough.
The turtle discovered that real happiness comes when we stop comparing ourselves and start embracing our own strengths. But, while the turtle's gift was revealed in calm waters, high above in the sky, a sparrow was about to face a raging storm. And she, too, would learn that true strength is not always what it seems. Let's move on to the story of the sparrow and the storm.
Once upon a time, high up in a tall tree, a sparrow built her nest. Every day she would sit on the edge of her nest and watch the great eagle soar across the skies. "Oh, how I wish I were strong like him," she thought to herself. One day, the sparrow was sitting in her nest when suddenly a powerful storm arrived. Dark clouds filled the sky, and lightning split it into two. The poor sparrow was terrified. She watched as the big eagle tried to rise above the clouds, but the strong winds from below kept throwing him down. And then the eagle did something strange. Instead of continuing to fight against the storm, he landed on a low-hanging branch, folded his wings, and closed his eyes. The sparrow was confused. Why doesn't he fly away? Why doesn't he try to get above the clouds? She wondered. As the storm raged on, the little sparrow huddled in the safety of her nest inside the tree's trunk. She sang a little song to calm herself and waited for the storm to pass. And after what felt like hours, the sun began to peek through the clouds. The storm had passed. The sparrow flew out of the tree to find that the eagle had spread his wings and was slowly rising into the air. He soared above the clouds and let out a loud, proud cry. The sparrow flew down to the ground and perched on a nearby fence post. She looked up at the eagle and thought about what he had done during the storm. Then she understood. Being strong isn't always about having the most power or being the biggest or the bravest. Sometimes it means knowing when to be small and humble. If the eagle had tried to be bigger and stronger than the storm, he might have been blown off course or even been hurt. But because he knew when to be weak and still, he was able to ride out the storm and live to soar another day. The sparrow flew back to her nest, happy to be alive, and with a newfound understanding of what it meant to be strong. And that, my friends, is the story of the sparrow and the storm. Until next time, remember, strength is not always about power. Sometimes survival depends on humility and wisdom.
The sparrow taught us that true strength lies in wisdom and humility, not just in power. But what happens when wisdom itself is put to the test? Let's listen to the story of the owl who talked too much.
Hello, friends. In the forest, the owl was known for his wisdom. All the animals admired him and often came to him with their questions. But the owl had one bad habit. Whenever an animal asked him a question, he would give a long, loud speech instead of a short, simple answer. He thought that he was very wise and clever, but actually, he was just a hypocrite. Slowly, the animals stopped coming to the owl. They didn't like his long speeches, they just wanted the answers. One day, a little mouse came to the owl. She asked him, "Why is it that you are so wise?" The owl gave her a long speech about his wisdom. When he stopped, the mouse said, "We didn't need so many words. We just wanted to be heard." The owl was shocked. He had never thought of it before, but when he realized that his speeches were just hurting the animals, he felt very sad. That day, the owl learned a very important lesson. He learned that sometimes the wisest words are silence. Let's take a moment to appreciate the beauty of silence. Silence can be peaceful and calming. It gives us time to reflect on our thoughts and emotions. It can also help us to connect with the people around us. When we are silent, we can really listen to what others have to say. So let's take a deep breath and enjoy the silence. Now, let's think about the story. What did the owl do? He gave long, loud speeches instead of short, simple answers. Why did the animals stop coming to him? Because they didn't like his speeches. They just wanted the answers. What did the mouse say to the owl? She told him that they didn't need so many words. They just wanted to be heard. What did the owl learn that day? He learned that sometimes the wisest words are silence. Friends, don't be like the owl. If someone asks you a question, give them a nice, simple answer. Don't make them feel small with your big words. And remember, sometimes the wisest words are silence.
The owl learned that wisdom is found not in speaking, but in listening. And sometimes true wisdom is shown not through words, but through kindness. That brings us to our next tale. The Lion and the Wounded Mouse.
Once upon a time, deep in the heart of the savannah, there lived a fierce lion who roamed freely in search of his next meal. One blistering hot day, the lion decided to rest under the shade of an acacia tree. As he lay there, he heard tiny cries. "Help me, please, I'm stuck." The lion opened his eyes and saw a small mouse struggling to free itself from a thorny bush. It had fallen into the bush while trying to escape from a hawk and now couldn't get out. The lion, who had never seen such a small and insignificant creature in trouble, carefully lifted the mouse out with his paws. The mouse, trembling and exhausted, looked up at the lion and asked, "Why would a king like you help someone so weak like me?" The lion chuckled and replied, "Today you need help, tomorrow I might." And with that, he went back to his nap, leaving the grateful mouse to scamper away into the bushes. Weeks went by and the lion grew bored of his solitary life. He longed for someone to challenge him, to test his strength and skills. One day, his wish was granted. A hunter from a nearby village set up a net and baited it with the carcass of a zebra. The lion, attracted by the smell of the fresh kill, approached the net cautiously. As soon as he stepped inside, the net tightened and the hunter shouted, "Got you, big cat." The lion roared in anger and tried to break free, but the more he struggled, the tighter the net became. As the lion struggled to free himself from the net, the small mouse that he had saved earlier watched from a nearby bush. Seeing the helpless king trapped in the net, the mouse knew he had to do something. With his sharp little teeth, he began to chew through the ropes. The lion, too proud and too weak to ask for help, didn't notice the tiny mouse gnawing on the net until it was too late. The net, unable to hold the lion's weight anymore, broke and the lion was free. Shaking off the last of the ropes, the lion looked around and saw the tiny mouse disappearing into the bushes. The lion, humbled by the experience, realized that even the smallest of creatures can be of great use. From that day on, the lion always remembered the kindness of the mouse and never underestimated any living being again. The moral of this story is, kindness is never wasted, no matter how small the act. Help can come from the most unexpected places.
The mighty lion learned that even the smallest creature can make a big difference. Strength isn't just about power, it's also about kindness. And speaking of strength, sometimes it doesn't come from muscles or size, but from simply being present. That's the story of the butterfly who couldn't fly.
Once upon a time, in a magical garden filled with wonders and full of sunshine, there lived a beautiful butterfly. Her name was Luma, and her wings were as perfect as they were pretty. Their colors were so bright that every time she flapped them, it was like tiny rainbows were dancing in the air. But as beautiful as Luma was, she had a secret. Her wings were useless. She couldn't fly. All the other butterflies in the garden could soar high above the flowers, twirl and flip in the sunlit sky. They would dance with the wind and sing as they flew. And down in the garden, Luma would watch them, her heart aching with a deep sadness. She longed to join them, to feel the wind beneath her wings and the sun on her back. But no matter how hard she tried, how fast she flapped her wings, she just couldn't fly. One day, feeling particularly low, Luma sat on a leaf and let out a big sigh. A little caterpillar, inching his way along the stem of a nearby flower, turned to her and said, "I wish I had wings like yours. Then I could climb up that tall tree and reach the juicy leaves at the top." Luma looked at him, her heart aching for the poor little worm who didn't understand how much she wished she could fly. "Oh, my wings are useless," she said sadly. "I can't fly. I'm just a butterfly who crawls on the ground. The caterpillar looked at her in surprise. "That's not true," he said with a smile. "You see, while all the other butterflies are flying high, you're the only one who stays here on the ground and talks to us. You make us laugh and smile. You've given me hope that I, too, can reach the top of that tree someday. So your wings may not be for flying, but that doesn't mean they're useless." Luma thought about this. She looked around her and saw that all the beetles and ants and caterpillars were gathered near her, listening intently as she told them stories about the world beyond the garden wall. She realized that even though she couldn't fly, she had become their storyteller, their comfort, their friend, and maybe, just maybe, that was her purpose. From that day on, Luma was never sad about not being able to fly. She knew that in her own way, she was soaring above the garden, touching the lives of everyone around her with her stories and her unwavering spirit. And one day, when she least expected it, a soft breeze lifted her wings and she flew. She didn't fly very far, but she flew. Lesson from the story: even if you can't do what others do, your presence still matters.
And so, dear friends, we've walked beside the monkey, who gave us a lesson on focusing on the future, the turtle, who taught us the value of our own gifts, the sparrow, who showed us wisdom and humility, the elephant, who found strength in weakness, the wolf, who taught the importance of trust, the owl, who reminded us of the power of listening, the lion, who discovered the value of kindness, and even the butterfly, who found her own quiet purpose. Each story teaches us that no matter how big or small we are, no matter our struggles or our gifts, we all have value. We all have something to give. So the next time you feel weak, unheard, or different, remember these little friends of the forest. Their voices still echo to remind us, you matter, your story matters, and your journey is important. Thank you for listening. Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and keep believing in the power of simple stories.